In this episode of Retro Now, I'm going to be taking a look at the mouse and cheese pack. So this episode of Retro Now is another follow-up to my recent unboxing video where I shared with you the contents of a box of goodies that I'd got for my Commodore 64. In this episode I'm going to be focusing in on the mouse and cheese pack that I got. I'm going to start off by taking the mouse out and opening it up, give it a bit of a clean in the service, before moving on to looking at using it with the associated cheese graphic software that it comes with. Then I'm going to take a look at seeing if we can get it working with the GEOS software, before moving on to try it out as a controller for a couple of games. The GEOS mouse cheese pack for the Commodore 64 and the Commodore 128 was released in 1985. Manufactured by the Nile Electronics company, the GEOS mouse was the first commercially available mouse for the 64 and the 128. Commodore's first mouse was released shortly after in the shape of the 1350. However, the 1350 is essentially a mouse-shaped joystick. Movements from it are translated into single digital joystick commands. Whilst the GEOS mouse has the same ability to mimic a joystick as the 1350, it also offers a fully proportional mode by default, making use of the SID chip's analog to digital converter to relay analog movements of the mouse, such as direction and speed. If you do need the joystick mode of the 1350, then this can be achieved with the GEOS mouse by holding down the left-hand mouse button when powering up the computer to which it's connected. Whilst this mode doesn't offer the refinement of proportional mode, it does mean that you can use the mouse with any games or applications that are designed to use a joystick. I had trouble getting the GEOS driver working with the GEOS desktop environment, for example, but was able to get around it by using the mouse in joystick mode. In 1986, Commodore introduced an upgrade to the 1350 in the shape of the 1351 mouse. Although almost identical in operation to the GEOS mouse, offering both a joystick and proportional mode, the drivers for the 1351 and the GEOS mice are for some reason not interchangeable. Although it will work with both the C64 and the C128, the 1351 was primarily aimed at C128 users. The cheese side of the mouse cheese pack is made up of a colour graphics application, and although all primitive by today's standards, it does serve as a way of showing off the capabilities of the GEOS mouse, and we'll take a look at it in operation later in this episode. Similar mouse cheese packs exist for the MSX range of computers, and we can see that by looking at the back page of my instructions where it suddenly starts referring to the MSX computers instead of the C64 or the 128. Although the mice in these packs look the same as the GEOS mouse I have here, and they use the same DB9 connector, the pinouts on these models are different to the Atari standard that's used by the C64 and the 128, and you should be careful not to connect one of these mice to your computer because you will almost certainly damage both the mouse and the computer. In 1990, Commodore included the mouse cheese pack as part of their C64 Connoisseurs collection, which was available here in the UK. And this probably accounts for why the GEOS mouse and the mouse cheese pack is more readily available today on sites such as eBay over Commodore's own mice. I picked up this particular pack for around £40, whereas the 1350 and the 1351 mice often go for more than double that, and they're generally much harder to find. Okay, so first up I think I'm going to give the mouse a bit of a clean. I don't think I'm going to bother taking it apart for this. It doesn't really need to be taken apart fully. It looks not to be too bad. And if you look on the bottom here, these pads are all nice and clean. Usually they're the first bits that get dirty, and in most cases they're usually falling off or missing altogether. So I think for this I'm just going to clean the mouse ball itself. We can do that by unclicking this cover here. Just pull it down and click it off. This is where most of the dirt gets into the mouse. Comes off the roller, it's picked up and goes from the mouse ball onto the rollers. As you can see, this is nice and clean. I think that just needs a bit of a wash with soapy water. Certainly wouldn't use anything stronger because that may well affect the rubber or strip it off altogether. So if we have a look inside here, you can see there are a couple of rollers in here that pick up the movement of the mouse ball. This is one here, I've got one here. So they pick up the movements of the mouse ball and transfer that as the X and Y coordinates. Then you've got a third roller there that just adds a bit of support. And as you can see in there, where the mouse ball itself has sort of picked up dirt, it transfers it onto the rollers. So they need a bit of a clean. I think I'll give those a clean with some isopropanol. I'll do that with a cotton bud. So what we'll do is get some isopropanol on the cotton bud and then just get in there and give it a bit of a clean. Okay, so I'm just going to squirt some IPA in here, and then I can then dip my cotton bud into that. Just makes it a bit easier to work with. So dip the cotton bud in there, get the end of it nice and wet with the alcohol, and then we'll just move in on the rollers and give those a little bit of a scrape back and forth to get that dirt off. Slightly tricky because as you're doing this you need to move the roller around I'm just going to do that with the end of the cotton bud and just work my way around and gradually get the dirt off. As you can see, that's starting to come off. It's a little bit stubborn, but it's coming off nicely onto the end of the cotton bud there. And what I'll need to do is just go around to the other rollers as well once I've finished this. So that's nice and clean. That's the first roller done, nice and clean. And what I'm going to do is just go around and clean the other rollers. And having done that, so I've done all 3 rollers now, I'm just going to go around and give the rest of the inside of this enclosure a bit of a clean with some alcohol on the end of another cotton bud. Just make sure everything's out there. It isn't too bad, so not much more to do around there, just clean around the edges there. And I think we're pretty much done, at least with the inside of the enclosure. Okay, so next up I'm just going to clean around the rest of the outside of the mouse. I'll get some piece of kitchen cloth here and soak it with some isopropanol. Just get that on there nice and wet, and then go over the outside, get any sort of sticky marks off. Actually, I'm quite lucky with this mouse, it's pretty clean already. Doesn't look like it's seen too much use, but you know, it doesn't hurt to give it once over before we start using it. Especially around these mouse buttons, there is a little bit of muck around those, so I think I'll get another cotton bud and just go around it with that. It just helps me to get in around all these little edges here, so just work it round again with a cotton bud soaked with a bit of isopropanol on it. And that's just bringing off any muck that's around those the buttons. Gets in there, right around the edges. There we go. That's done. Okay, so I think we'll just finish it off, cleaning the outside with my big kitchen cloth. On the underside here, as I say, the mouse pads there nice and clean, so I don't think there's too much needed there. And then we're ready to put the mouse ball back in. As I say, I've given that a wash with a bit of soapy water only. I definitely wouldn't use any alcohol on that, because that's more than likely to affect or strip off the rubber coating on the ball. And then I just click the cover back on there, and I think we're pretty much done. Yeah, pleased with that. Looks nice and clean. As I say, it wasn't too dirty to start with, but it's just got any muck off the buttons and around the buttons there, and cleaned up that mouse enclosure nicely. So we're now ready to test it out with some software and see if it works. Okay, so I haven't tried this out yet, so fingers crossed that everything works okay. I'm going to start off by plugging it into my Commodore 64, and then we'll load up some software and some applications and some games and see how it works. Okay, so let's start with the Cheese graphics application that comes with this pack. It does take quite a while to load, especially if you're using the physical tape that it comes with, but here I'm loading it from an image using my Ultimate 64, so it should be a bit quicker to load. Just wait for that to finish and it should automatically run. And there we go. Now, as you can see, compared to a modern graphics package, this is a bit limited, but back in the day it was probably quite a capable bit of software. Especially as one that came bundled with the mouse and not a standalone package on its own. It certainly does a good job of showing off the mouse's proportional mode. It's really quite surprisingly smooth to use. One thing that I do find a bit strange with this mouse is that I actually have to use the right mouse button to click on any of the icons. And you know, here I'm selecting the different colours. Yeah, because usually, you know, with a mouse today you would predominantly be using the left button instead, but it's sort of slightly strange to use, but not too bad. And as I say, the proportional movement is really quite smooth with it. Picks up the speed and direction fairly accurately. And just go around here and try out some of these different icons, try some different colours, draw some boxes. And you know, I think with a bit of practice, you probably do some quite nice drawings with this. It's not a bad little package actually. I'm quite surprised at how good it is for the time. I mean, you know, we're looking back here to now a piece of software that was from 1985, so we're talking about 35 years ago. So yeah, it's quite good fun. Okay, next up I'm going to use it with the GEOS desktop environment. Now there is a mouse for this, a mouse driver for this, to get it to use the NEOS mouse with proportional mode, but I couldn't work out how to load it in the time that I had for this, so instead I'm going to put the mouse into joystick mode. So you see here it's not working, so what I'm going to have to do is to unplug the mouse, and then I'll plug it back in whilst holding down the left mouse button, as you can see here. And now it's working in joystick mode. Now it's not as good as I'd imagined it would be with proportional mode. It doesn't feel quite as smooth as it did when we were using the Cheese graphics package, but it does work. And this shows how you can potentially use the mouse with any software that uses a joystick. So that's both sort of desktop applications and games alike. Let's say again, you have to click on the right mouse button to activate these menu options and any of these icons, which is it does feel slightly strange. Spent almost a lifetime of using a mouse with the left mouse button. Okay, so this time we're going to try out a couple of games that have native support for the NEOS mouse built in. These are games that I'd usually played using a joystick, and other games that use joysticks. Of course, you could use the mouse using joystick mode, but in this case we're going to use the native drivers that built into this game. So this is Arkanoid, and so I'm used to using a joystick with this game, but this feels really good. It certainly greatly enhances the playability of the game. It makes it much easier to control the bat, especially as you can control the speed of the bat as you're moving from side to side. Usually with a joystick, you know, you'll move the joystick left and right, and it moves at a steady pace. But this, I can vary the speed, and it makes it a much more enjoyable game to play. It's just a shame there aren't more games that have native support for the NEOS mouse. I think there's I've only found this one and Operation Wolf, which we'll look at next. Okay, so here we have Operation Wolf, and as you can see on the menu we have an option for using the NEOS mouse, and if ever there was a game that needed mouse support, this is it. If you imagine, the original arcade version of this game used a light gun, so using the mouse is probably the next best thing. And again, it's really fluid. It greatly enhances the playability of the game. I've played this with a joystick and failed miserably, so yeah, this is really quite playable with the mouse. So I'm not sure how good it would be using the mouse in joystick mode, but certainly with the proportional mode support that we have here built in, it's really playable. And actually, I'm not doing too bad compared to how I would do usually using the joystick. So let's see if I can get through the first level. That'll be a real test. I've not really managed to do that with the joystick. So. And also, again, what's nice is it uses both mouse buttons, so you've got one mouse button for the controlling the gun and the other one controlling your rocket launcher. So yeah, it's pretty good. Just need to get to the end of the level. That'll be a real test. If I can get to the end of the level, that'll be a right result. So, would I recommend adding a NEOS mouse to your collection? Yeah, I think I would. Especially for games like this where it's natively supported, it really does enhance the playability. But also that joystick mode means that you can use it with plenty of other games as well. So yeah, I would. It's not an essential accessory for your Commodore 64, but I'd still recommend adding a NEOS mouse to your collection, especially whilst they're still reasonably ready and available, and not too expensive, especially when compared with Commodore's own mice. Okay, so I must be nearly there now. Hold on, no, run out of ammunition. Oh, there's one there. Hold on. Quick. Yeah, so I've got a few more bullets. So I might actually just make it. Come on. Yeah, one more, come on. This must be it. Come on, must be nearly there. Hey! Yeah, we've done it. So I've got through the first level. So yes, definitely add a NEOS mouse to your collection, and then you'll be able to win at Operation Wolf. Well, that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, then make sure you let me know by liking it with a big thumbs up. Why not get involved in the conversation by leaving me a comment and let me know what you think. If you're new to the channel or you haven't done so already, then please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to click on the bell icon to set your notifications so you'll be notified when I upload new content to the channel. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and wherever you are, stay safe, keep well, and I look forward to seeing you with another episode of Retro Now.